Hello everybody, welcome to Momo versus MTG. This will be my first video going up on this channel and I'm really excited for it. I apologize in advance if I'm rambling on or I stutter, it's just the way I am. I would like to focus on this channel, deck building for the Commander format, anywhere between casual to higher end casual. Hope I fall somewhere in between there and that you guys enjoy the videos, have questions. Maybe I'll take a look at viewer videos later on, but without further ado, let's jump into one of my favorite decks. So here we have Verrak Warped Sengir. He is a legendary creature, vampire. He's got flying, death touch, lifelink. Whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, if life was paid to activate it, you may pay that much life again. If you do, copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. So the running joke in my playgroup is this guy is the best ramp in Orzhov, right? So as long as you get 3 mana, slam this guy down, play a fetch land, you're already gaining an extra land every turn if you can do this. Which is fantastic. And of course, there are ways to get the fetch lands back to do this multiple times within the same turn. So we are running 38 lands. Which is higher than my average, but it's kind of convoluted, a little inflated there because 8 of them are fetch lands and are going to be thinning out your deck. So you're really grabbing 2. But ideally, you want to see some of these fetch lands early on, right? So you're running like Arid Mesa, which has this beautiful ability here. Tap, pay a life, search for a mountain or plains, right? We'll be grabbing 2 plains with this card. And a Polluted Delta, right? We'll be grabbing 2 swamps. Usually I talk about ramp like one of the first things in these commanders, but I'm only running 4 instances of ramp. You got your Signet, Soul Ring, and a Talisman here, which you really don't need any because this guy is going to be doing all the ramping for you. So he's kind of a shell. You just want to play big Orzhov spells, go ahead and do that. But the direction I went with him is life manipulation. There's life gain and that sort of thing, but really I want to be messing with life totals, my own and especially my opponents. What drew me to this commander here is near-death experience. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 1 life, you win the game. So this enchantment here is an alternative win con, which I do like to look out for. Some of them are pretty fun, and in particular, this one has a lot of risk-reward to it, right? Which I do enjoy. This enchantment is pretty hard to pull off, but it's very satisfying if you do. Because as soon as you play this, this card here, the entire table is going to be looking at you like, all right, how do we get rid of the enchantment or rid of the player? And if you have 1 life, it's really not that hard to do. So we're trying to lower our life total at instant speed if possible. We can do that with ways in particular. I'd like to take a look at our card draw here. We have one of the best cards in the deck, in my opinion, is War Room here, right? Like, pay 3 mana, and then you have to pay 4 life here. Pay life in the number of colors in your commander. Draw a card. So because of this, you're doing this twice. Every time you tap War Room, drawing 2 cards. Another bomb in the deck is Villas here, right? A lot of mana, but if you get there, super good, right? Pay a black and 2 life, which with our commander, again, we're paying 4 because we're doubling it. Put 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature, and then you lose life. And when you lose life, you draw that many. So double the value of getting rid of creatures, and then also you'll be drawing a ton of cards with this guy here. I've cycled through the deck plenty of times with this guy on the battlefield alone. And the other cheaper good options like Underworld Connections, again, drawing his 2 cards. Street Wraith, free cantrip, draw 2 cards. And then Greed is another all-star here. Which we would be paying 4 life and a black to draw 2 cards. Right, and this is all great because you do these at any time, which is fantastic. So you're going to have a lot of card advantage with your commander out. And the other theme, like I said earlier, is life manipulation. Axis Mortality is another pet favorite card of mine. So you have a lot of political play if you have something like this out. Like you could not only switch your life total with the highest opponent's life total, you can say, hey, don't hit me and I'll give you his life total, which, you know, people tend to enjoy. It's pretty funny. So Axis Mortality, beginning of your upkeep, you exchange two players' life totals. And the rest of these cards here have similar effects on either you gaining life and opponents losing life, or switching each other's. Like Profane Transfusion's a one shot, you get a big creature after, right? Two target players exchange the life totals. You create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token, where X is the difference between those two players' life total. If you're sitting at 1, paying all this life to draw cards, and your opponent's still sitting around 40, say, hey, let's restart the game. You go to 1. I think the best interaction I had with this is switching my life total with a friend of mine who had a mana crypt out, and I was sitting at 1. I was like, all right, let's roll the dice on him. He was rolling odds the entire game, calling mana crypts, and ended up taking himself out. Pretty funny. Would recommend giving it a try. You know, and of course we do have, you know, life gain when we need it. So extort effects are great. Blind obedience, we're going to slow down the game. Aetherflex Reservoir, this is just a win con sitting there. I primarily like it just for the incremental life gain here. In case we get too low, we have no way around it. So some of these effects are needed. Of course, your big X dump spells, gonna gain you a ton of life, keep you around, keep your opponents out of the game, which I like. And an all-star in this deck is Tainted Sigil, right? This funny guy here is tap, sacrifice Tainted Sigil. You gain life equal to the total life lost by all players this turn. So, with this out, you can pay a ton of life into Villas or some other way to get yourself really low, right? Gain a ton of card advantage, pop this thing, you know, and even if someone responds by trying to kill you instead, pop this thing, right? You're going to be gaining all that life back. And we have some great recursion here. Sun Titan, Spirit Sister Call, Savines, you know, new one, Court of Ardenvale. Gives you Monarch draw and also returning permanents either to your hand in a battlefield. Like, this is all great stuff. We've curved Tainted Sigil multiple times in the same game, which is, you know, fantastic. Gives you a free pass on, you know, getting yourself low if you can. Then we're running a decent amount of enchantments in this deck. We have 17 in particular. I'm going to be playing with this number, either increasing or lowering it because of my sideboard here, which I'll take a look at after. However, you know, Greater Aromancies is great in this deck because of that. You know, keep your enchantments around if you can, and Karmic Justice as well, right? Because if someone's going to try and blow up something, especially Karmic Justice, like it's you know, gives you a little bit of a retort and a little turn against that. And then a lot of this deck is filled with trying to protect yourself, right? If you're trying to go low, go to 1 life to potentially win the game here, let's protect ourselves. Some of the all-stars in this deck I would like to point out is Angel's Grace. Split second, people can't respond. So long as it's not a mana ability, people forget about this. But reads, you can't lose the game this turn, and your opponents can't win this turn. So in turn, damage that would reduce your life total less than 1 reduces to 1 instead. Right? 1 is the magic number here, because if we have 1, we have to win the game. So I like to throw near-death experience out, and we have some mana left up, so we can throw out an Angel's Grace, another fantastic one, Stunning Reversal, same deal but with upside. Life total becomes 1, draw 7, fantastic. Phyrexian Unlife, this can get kind of tricky, but you know, it reads, you know, you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Great. As long as you have 0 or less life, all damage that is dealt to you as though it had infect. And of course, if you have 10 poison counters, you lose the game. So this is a pretty risky one, and it sets your life total usually to 0, right? Yes. So you're sitting at 0, and then you're accruing poison counters. You somehow have to get back up to 1 life, which can be tricky. Another all-star, which I love, is the Golden Throne. Another thing, lose the game, life becomes 1. Also is a mana rock. Fantastic. So those are the heavy hitters, which I really enjoy. Also run a Ley Line of Sanctity in this deck because a lot of burn spells. This protects you from bolts, shocks. That's my biggest fear, is someone has a shock in hand. They're just going to deal 2 damage while I'm at 1 life. Great protection here. Also, graveyard protection, especially against Bajuka Bog, right? So that reads target opponent exiles graveyard, or is off wants to keep that around. So all around fantastic. And of course, we have the deterrent for attackers. We have your Ghostly Prison, Ink Shield, which is one of my favorite cards because it's upside. It's a fog effect with a gotcha. Let's create a bunch of 2/1s. For each 1 damage prevented this way, create a 2/1 black and white Inkling token. So they swing at you with 20 damage. Boom, let's create 22 ones in response. Love it. So that is the overall view of the deck. A couple things I want to point out is board wipes. You can go any direction. Toxic Deluge is good, but you could sub these cards in and out. I like Farewell in this deck because you really don't care too much about your creatures, artifacts, enchantments. Usually you do. So a lot of utility here, and it gets rid of a lot of things for good. Blood to Snow. We are running Snowlands here. Let's cast this thing. Return our primarily our commander, but you know, any other creature that we see fit with upside. So board wipes with upside I do enjoy, and a lot of these can take advantage of that. Yeah. A couple other cards I'd like to take a look at is Enduring Angel. Another thing, right? Reduce 0, transform. You don't lose the game. Many of these effects is possible because, you know, if you can stack them up, great. This is another flash speed intervention of, hey, I don't lose the game for having 1 less life. And it'll set it to 1 instead. Has some great protection here for yourself. So that is the overarching view on this deck. So another all-star in the deck I like to point out is Fountain of Agonies, right? Enchantment, whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Fountain of Agony. So those fetch lands become, hey, get 2 lands, let's put 2 counters on here. And if we get to 4, we could pay a colorless and a black to remove 4 blood counters from Fountain of Agonies, destroy target creature. Repeatable creature removal, which is pretty easy to build counters on. Love this for spot removal. Everything else is pretty interchangeable. I like to highlight New Blood here, though, because you have a vampire, right? Tap it on tap vampire, gain control of target creature. Turn into a vampire you don't care about, but hey, sure, removal, but then also I get the creature. And a couple of tutors in here, which you definitely don't have to run. I think they like to flow the game a little bit better. Profane Tutor's great. Mainly I'm looking for, with the enchantment tutors, right? Idolic, Academy, Moonbless. I'm trying to get Axis Mortality or near-death experience at my leisure. And then these general tutors, I am looking for, especially I have a transmute thing here for, a more expensive tutor. I don't like the cheap tutors. You can run them, fine. I'm looking for that Crucible Worlds because My personal peeve, my personal pleasure is getting land drops, especially in obscure colors, which you will notice on my channel going forward. And that pretty much covers everything here. That's a general deck tech. Will be in the description. But lastly, I'm debating putting a couple things in the sideboard. I think I want to get some more creatures in here. And this guy I missed before. Fantastic, right? Pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search for a card. Like, this is good upside tutor. Like, especially in this deck. And plus an 8/8 body on top of it all. A little more recursion. Attempted to put the Exquisite Blood Sanguine combo in, but I'm not really looking to do that. But it is funny when you're switching life totals around, because if you go from, you switch someone's life, your life is 1, someone to 40, the other opponent has 40 life, switch those two around, you'll gain the 40, and you could just zap someone for the other 40, have someone else sitting at 1. So more viable, win con, debating putting these in. Exquisite Blood's the same deal in that sense. In Astarion, Blade Baldur's Gate 3. So I was like, might as well throw this guy in, but he can do kind of the same thing. Bit more recursion. Chainer's pretty good, because you were, especially pay 3 life, put 2 target creatures, like 3 life, 3 black mana. 2 target creatures from a graveyard. Be yours, someone else's, fantastic. And then Strands of Night is an absolute all-star this deck. Should have been in sooner, because you're fetching out so many swamps. You don't really care too much for them. So sure, sacrifice a swamp, pay 4 life and 2 black. Let's get 2 creatures from a graveyard back into play. So that's why I want to put some more creatures in as well. And that covers this deck tech for the most part. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with Momo versus MTG. Any comments down below? Anything you want to see? Let me know. I'm curious on your thoughts on it. Without further ado, I will see y'all when I see you. Take care.